Memes live and die based on their accessibility and interchangeability. This was the impetus of meme culture about a half a decade ago. However, with today's meme culture, memes can be refitted with a dose of irony, post-irony, and meta-irony. For those who need a further explanation of all that, please watch my video on the subject. Don't worry though, this video won't be nearly as complex or overtly didactic. I wrote that line really early in the script when I was writing it, so just so you know, I'm totally wrong about that.
There are two types of irony that react to the old forms of meme culture that was ironic memes and pre-ironic memes. Now, meta-irony itself is usually muddled with post-irony. However, the artistic intentions behind both forms are completely different in terms of how they're used in memetics. Meta-irony in memes are often meant to convey a criticism of memes and ironic memers by playing with form, intention, and subversion. Meta-ironic memes often intentionally destroy the concept of a narrative in a meme for the sake of being conceptual rather than comprehensible. Meta-ironic memes also intentionally lose their structure. Meta-irony is more about the deconstruction and criticism through self-parody rather than making and engaging in applicable statements on memes itself. Meta-irony, especially in meme culture, is brazenly cynical with no regard for engaging you in a meaningful way. Instead, it plays with the expectation of irony itself and subverts the subversion. This is where post-irony comes in and plays the role of the proverbial phoenix rising from the ashes. While post-irony still is structurally subversive, like meta-irony, it is not narratologically subversive. Instead of hiding away by using irony and any avenue of subversion possible, it completely adheres to its own existence within irony. Post-irony adheres to what a meme is and comments on it in an earnest and clear way, rather than taking an absurdist, incomprehensible approach. Post-irony is more concerned with the sincere approach, and often takes the symbolic context of pre-ironic and ironic memes and rebuilds it.
The current resurfacing of the doge meme, colloquially known as neo-doge, has captivated and sparked my imagination. Also, just so you know, I coined neo-doge. Like, it's not like, it doesn't have a name. I made it up. That's what it's called now. Get used to it. It aesthetically resembles its previous incarnation, but adopts a new method that completely negates its original nomenclature. But before we can delve into what changed and how interesting and subversive this new incarnation is, I need to pedantically explain the original meme to you. Originally, doge, being a clear misspelling of dog, and in the script here I still misspelled dog, is a meme about the internal monologues of a Shiba Inu. But the most important well-known is this image here. Taken in 2010 by Atsuko Sato, the Shiba Inu would be privy to a legacy unbeknownst to her. Debate whether or not if this dog is photogenic or just nervous. It won't matter. It's all about the text associated with it that makes it. Donning poor grammar as its vehicle for humor, it captivated and rolled over social media for a time during 2012 and the preceding years. Like I mentioned before, I made a video about how memes deconstruct themselves with different types of irony. What's interesting about neo-doge is that it's simultaneously post-ironic and meta-ironic in function. It's post-ironic because it's aware of its own irony, and its meta-irony comes from the humor conveyed by defying its own conventions. For example, She Took the Kids purposely subverts the expectation of memes structured from the peak of its popularity. For instance, the meme resurfaced because people were taking the original image and liquefying it to fit in another shape. It then spiraled into simpler subversion of the meme structured as a whole. And to get a better understanding of this, we need to dive deep into the subtext of it all. In order for us to interpret memetics this far detached, we need to examine the abstract idea of narrative embedded within these memes. What does this say in contrast to the original form of the meme? There's a great article by the Philosopher's Meme titled The Interpretation of Memes, which delves into how we perceive micro-expressions in memes. Excerpts as follows. I often see analyses of memes focus on their objective dimensions and their theoretical qualities, semiotics, cultural ecosystem, and so on. What I have here is a modest proposal to talk about the more obvious quality of memes as micro-expressions of how we think about character, narrative, and imagery. This is about when memes act as images of human action. The rest of the article goes into an exercise in understanding narratives and memes. I encourage you to read this article and visit Philosopher's Memes for a more in-depth and philosophical look at memes, but to also understand how this Doge meme intentionally subverts and makes fun of narrative in memes. This chart created for this article gives us insight into how we read a meme like a scene. By the way, shibboleth means a custom, principle, or belief distinguishing a particular class or group of people, especially a long-standing one regarded as outmoded and no longer important. In the first column, we have approval-type memes. These primarily indicate preferences and approval. They exist normally in a comparative format, with two parts constructed, each one signifying a different psychological state in the protagonist. And the negative part precedes the first part. At this point, you're probably just saying to yourself, no shit, these are just what the meme conveys. And you would be completely right, However, what the writer of this article is attempting to do is pre-frame and frame narratives within a scene. This narrative requirement is visually accomplished by framing these two choices unequally. The case of memes which reframes images, they often try to use images that have this unequal framing beforehand. The visual differentiation helps convey the sense of being decided. Think of how a scale judges the weight of two objects, physically shifting to indicate the relation between the two. An unequal scale is a decided scale. It has passed its judgment. If you look at the previous examples, you'll notice this principle. With neo-doge, there is no framing and pre-framing. Its only narrative is that it's subverting itself constantly. For example, there's no context we can pull to understand this meme and its narrative. This is just a declarative statement attached to an image. Here's a little experiment. What if this was just a tweet from the revered elder god of Twitter, Drill? A bit uncanny, isn't it? The appeal of Drill is that there's no reference to pull from. It's just naturally funny because of how direct and unapologetically bizarre it is. A single tweet or set of tweets often doesn't need much framing to understand it. Inversely, memes do. There's a different layer of interpreting memes, even meta and post-ironic memes, which is imagery and the symbiotic. Images are the core component of what makes memes thrive in a cultural ecosystem. We identify characters and aspects in memes by their expressions. Doge's original form was about violating a language's syntax, conveying that the Doge has a very deliberate but primitive way of communicating, and it was a part of its charm back then. However, the charm of this new iteration is how it's meant to violate its own ethos, the structure, the character, and the mere idea of Doge itself. Who is Bethany? Why is she not unhanding Doge's Lego? What does this really mean? Who is this for? There's a narrative presented here, but it's intentionally supposed to throw you off. Meme culture's trajectory at this point in time is mending the gap between irony and sincerity. Right now, meme culture and world culture itself is a pendulum swinging between modernism and postmodernism, or commonly known as Metamodernism. I won't go too much into it here, because that's an entirely different video for the future, but for brevity's sake, in the context of meme culture, Metamodernism refits irony into sincerity and affect. Doge as a meme went from innocuous in form to surreal to metamodern and meta-ironic. With this resurgence, expect to see something similar happen with an old meme soon. The possibilities of this are really endless. Alright, I'm done being pedantic and pretentious about this meme, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't take anything away from this video. It's okay to think more about memes in an intellectual light. We need to understand what could make something appealing and ruminate on it. Meme culture usually isn't put under a microscope like this. Meme reviewers usually tend to use the meme as a vehicle for humor and commentary without actually commenting on the meme itself. I completely understand why, it's kind of weird and boring. However, if you're into that sort of thing, please go check out the Philosopher's Memes website. They have some very insightful articles that I like to pull reference from in these videos. With that, information, ideas, and entertainment are way too easily consumed and disposed of. This makes our attention spans and our ability to self-reflect on what we see harder as time goes on. So, I invite you to challenge yourself and think about these things.